So while we're getting towards the end of the end of the semester, and this is probably a good thing to do any time of the year, one of the things I think we can do to increase clarity as much as possible for students is to make sure that they have one place to go to find out what's required of them, what needs to be turned in, what they need to do. And this is even if we're saying things in the classroom or writing them elsewhere, having one place that they can get to at any time that's just one place to go makes this much easier for students to know what they need to do. Again, we have a lot of students who may have poor working memory, ADHD, or one of many other things, like just also the fact that they have too many classes in a day and too many things to think about and too many assignments to do at the same time. We need to make it easier for them to figure out what they need to do. Build the scaffold for them so they can do that. Now, I'm in Google Classroom. You can do the same thing in Canvas. It doesn't matter. But I always put at the top kind of one section that's going to include this information that they need to know what they need to do. So up here, what I would do is I would just add a document. Now I'm going to go to the document itself, and this is kind of where I'm going to build it. So in this document, I'm going to have all the assignments they do, when they're due, what are the parts they need, any notes or files they need access to as a reminder. Now, yes, those could be in Google Classroom, they could be in Canvas, they could be in Drive, it doesn't matter, but I just want one document where they can go to easily to find out what they need to do, and they can make their own copy of this document, copy and paste into it when they need to keep track of it themselves. So the way I'm going to do this is a lot easier nowadays than in the past because I can go up here to Insert, and you're going to see building blocks. Building blocks are kind of these nice little templates you can put into Google Doc with a lot of the new little smart chips that have been added in the last couple of years. And I'm going to go down to Launch Content Tracker. And the reason why I'm going to do this one is because it has a lot of the columns that I'm going to need, and I can edit this a little bit. Now, first off, you see it has type, description, published date, published outlet, linked content. I can change these as I need to. Most importantly, you see published date. I'm going to put due date. And the nice thing is that there's a little, again, smart chip here I can click, and I can select the due date for that. Down here, we can put this completed instead of published. So the students could copy this in, and they could make it whether or not they complete it. Now, here's where I could change some other things. I could, well, that's fun to type out. Assignment or task, I could put in there. If I need to put a description, I can be there. Outlet, I don't really need this category here. So what I can do is I can highlight it. So all I'm doing is highlighting this. I'm right clicking, and I can delete that column, shorten it up, and make it look a little bit better. I could put the link to the content, or we could just say link to file if I need that. And if everything's in Google Classroom, they know where to find it. Maybe you don't need that, but you can get rid of that. And you know what? I'm just going to get rid of it now. Again, I'm going to delete the column, and that gives me a little more space on the other sides. I can also, again, move this around so I can give more room to one or the other, knowing that as I add more text, it's going to fill down, create a wider row. Now, probably going to have more than two things going on, so I'm going to click and drag to highlight these two rows. I'm going to right click, and you'll see I get insert. So I'm going to insert two rows below, and they keep those smart chips. So I can do the same thing again. I'm going to click here, drag to the upper left. I'm not going to do that first row, just those four rows. I'm going to right click, insert four rows below. And there we go. This probably should be enough that I have there. And now I can start putting in the tasks, the assignments, what they need to be working on. And if there are kind of like a big project, maybe I could put that where like, project part 1. Maybe I just kind of put the project name and I want to have a midpoint check. Because if you have a big assignment, you don't want to leave it to the end to be checking things. You want to have these progress checks in between. Doesn't mean that someone's going to the grade book then, but it does mean that, hey, if it's a 3-week project, about 1 week in, we're going to do a quick progress check. 2 weeks in, we're going to do a quick progress check. Just so it's not a surprise when we get to the end where the student is, maybe they're doing the wrong thing or they need a little more help. We know from the start. Now, as I put that in, maybe I put in some important information here, and maybe I even use the checkbox here so they could even click off and mark off things. So like they could be like whatever task 1 is, task 2, task 3. I may write out some of those tasks. And as a student copies it, they can easily just mark that off. So easy thing for a student to copy and paste into their own little tracker. Again, having a date in there makes it easy so that they can check that. I'm not going to worry about the time. Maybe my due dates are really a flexible thing. I'm just going to check it around this time. If it's not due then, that's all right. You still have a couple more days. Let's get that done. And then again, just a quick, easy thing for the students to mark if they're complete or not. Now, one thing I like about this little drop down is I can add some options here. So let's add one more option. I'm going to call it need help. And this could be an easy thing for a student just to mark down on there that they need really hot help on this. And what I do is I can apply it to all. So now that is in all of them. So that's a nice little thing you can do with these drop downs if you haven't tried using them before. So now this one document will be the place where I put everything I need in here. And then you can kind of see if I take my cursor to the left side here, I can pin this pin header up to this row. I can add a row below, so I could just be doing that to add another row. But more importantly, I can click and drag, so I can move these up around. I can kind of sort them, so maybe the most important's at the top, maybe the most up, the one coming up the soonest is up at the top. But now if I just use this sheet, every assignment, every big task is in there. Maybe I break it down to those manageable components. You know, if it's a big project, you have to break it down so the student can kind of be able to grasp with it. If it's too big of a project, a lot of students may get stuck on the starting point because they don't know what they need to do first. Help them by kind of breaking those bigger tasks into smaller tasks. Now, once you have this, all you got to do is go and place that into the top section there. Remind students this is where they go. They can easily see that. You can even then, if you do communicate with parents, you can even share this document with them so they can kind of see that too. Yes, if you're using a gradebook system like Infinite Campus or PowerSchool, there's a lot of stuff in there too. Sometimes those aren't as accessible as maybe a simple Google Doc is. And so putting that in there just so they know what's coming up ahead of time, what they need to be working on, this just makes it so much simpler to students, especially at the end of a semester when students may have a whole lot of stuff due in a very short period of time. So this is just one thing we can do to make learning a little bit more accessible for students, improve that clarity for them, help them out. An easy thing we do on our end, but can have a big impact on their end.